So budget day is upon us, and we here at Wion World is One are bringing to you the definitive analysis of this interim budget. It's got some unusually high buzz surrounding it because it is, after all, an interim budget, not a complete budget, but still lots riding on this one. And we're trying to understand all of that as we head into the presentation of the budget in a few hours' time from now. And for that, to take us through all the way to that, we have with us here in our studios Mr. Jasper Reed, joining me with our colleagues, political editor Kartikeya Sharma joining us here in our studios, and of course Sumit Chaturvedi joining us with all the perspective of what corporate India Inc. wants from this budget and how they're viewing this budget. Let's now get this started. Right, gentlemen, very good morning to all of you present over here. It's unusual, isn't it? The interim budget, Jasper, doesn't carry this much buzz, but Kartikeya, you'll be able to help us understand why so much buzz around an interim budget this time around.
So there are three reasons for the buzz which this interim budget is creating, because from the government side there had been source-related information in the public narrative that it's going to be a little more than the vote on account. So it used to be a settled issue that a vote on account is a no-news day. Basically, the expenditure of the government would be presented on the table of the House. Now, when you say it's going to be a little more than the vote on account, a little less than the full budget, then there is a speculation as to what they're going to do. Second, it comes to the conventions. The opposition in India feels that this is breaking the convention because your power is limited to the life of the current Lok Sabha. Once the current Lok Sabha expires, you don't have the power to exercise any budgetary exercise. And lastly, and most important of all, I think it's the three results of the three elections in North India, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. It has actually shown where the economic focus of the government should have been in past 4 years, which is employment, which is a growth which includes job. Now what is happening is you are having a debate in India about a jobless growth. That's the biggest nightmare. So the issue which is supposed to be eclectic, confined to economists, stock market, business, is now being talked about by the common Joe, and this should worry the government.
Speaking of which, Sumit, we are just about an hour or so away from the opening for the markets. What we understand is that the markets have already priced in the fact that the fiscal deficit target is going to be missed by the government, and missed by about at least 10 basis points, so 3.4% from the current 3.3%. Talk to us in terms of the markets and India Inc. as they look forward to this budget.
Well, definitely India Inc. is looking forward to this as a please-all budget. Well, I have managed to speak to many of them over the last few days. I was in Davos and I spoke to a couple of them. Well, some of them were really hopeful that this will be please-all budget. Somebody, finance minister would like to give something to middle class, definitely rural class, and he will not actually leave the women working class out of it, because women is a big voter base. Well, we all know that. Absolutely. This time it's a window for the voting, in a way canvassing on marketing in itself. That's why they could also get. So it could be a please all budget. Second thing, there would be surprises. They could go beyond the traditional overall norms, and that will be a bring surprise. As far as markets are concerned, just let's wait for one more hour and we'll get our answers. But yes, yesterday they were quite jumping, and as the markets, they behave in this irrational way. There's a lot of buying which happens ahead of the budget, and after the budget, there's a lot of reaction that comes. We'll all wait for that, Krishna.
Absolutely, we all are going to wait for that. Meanwhile, Jasper, we've put it into context as to why so much buzz surrounding it and what corporate India is expecting, markets are expecting, etc., etc. What about the common man? Because this is the please-all budget as Sumit was talking about. It's traditionally been the please-all budget. Do you think that there's a chance that this time around they will, exceed the norm and present a rather elaborate budget?
Every chance, Krishna. I mean, I agree with Kartikeya. Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, MP was a big shock for them, right? And disastrous in terms of timing. I mean, politics is all about momentum, as we know. And so they'll be taking this opportunity, albeit it's an interim budget or a budget on account, to try and regain the momentum. I think that the challenge is, and it's all about timing, they've left it too late. So whatever they put out today is a bit like making kind of promises on your wedding night, right? Perhaps too little, too late. But the common man will be watching this very closely.
Might not be the latest in terms of making promises, because at the end of the day, we are 3 months probably at best away from an election. And every government has tried to do something that can make sure that they retain power. Not many have succeeded.
No, again, I would say that, well, there are two levels to this. 3 months is very close to the election. On the other hand, as Carter Kay would I'm sure agree with, 3 months is an eternity in politics. So there's a lot can happen between now and then. But they lost the momentum, and to a great extent, they've only got themselves to blame for losing that momentum. They're going to have a job getting that back now, whatever they hand out today.
Okay, so Karthik, quick thoughts first of the heads. What is the one thing that you're sure is going to be announced in this interim budget?
I think it's going to more than that. It's going to show us as to where the focus of the Prime Minister is going to be. Is he going to shore up his vote bank with the middle class? Is he going to focus on rural areas, which is now where the Congress has seen a resurgence, the green shoots for itself? There are multiple issues on which the government will have to work. For example, you have the NSSO data controversy, which shows that for the past last 45 years, unemployment in India has actually shot through the roof. And that's the controversy of the day. So you see the backdrop under which this budget is being presented. Generally, when budgets come like this, and if there's an upswing in the mood, you have a different sort of a budget. Remember the budget of UPA in 2014, the vote on account. It came in context of backdrop of scandals after scandal. There are no scandals in the government, but this is coming in the wake of a lot of serious economists and financiers criticizing the government in context of what it could have done and what it has not done. I think that's a serious issue.
But there's some positive also, Karthikeya. If you talk about the GDP growth, it's definitely one of the fastest growing economy. Crude prices, that impacts everyone. Remember, 4 months ago we were talking about rupee crashing against the dollar. Crude prices now have softened. So lots of leeway also in front of the government to give sops. Even if they give, definitely they will be, be prudent enough to maintain the fiscal deficit. So don't you think it's kind of, good times for government also? Well, yes, there's a lot of things where they have not worked, but a lot of leeway because of the low food prices.
I don't deny that, Sumit. I don't deny that, Krishna, that yes, government has a lot of leeway. But in politics, it really doesn't make a sense, as Jasper said, that you announce all the grand promises when you know that the elections are going to take place in the next 2 months. Then it becomes like an instrumental rationality, if I have to borrow that Weberian phrase. Then it does not have that stickiness to it. It's like whenever the election comes, you talk about Ayodhya. It does not have that emotional connect because people would say, well, you could have done it 3 years back. So now if you talk about that, people would say, well, you could have done 3 months back. So that's where the issue is. You might have the arithmetic and the finances on your side, but what about the chemistry?
Fair enough. At this point, I want to take the discussion out to Sumit. Sumit, budget means that the middle class is watching. Lots of talk about how the middle class anger, so to speak, has been rising. They're looking for something in the interim budget. If it is going to go above and beyond the brief of an interim budget, do you think that there is a possibility that income tax rates could be given some leeway?
Well, that's been a demand, Krishna, and yes, there's a possibility. Income tax definitely can be tinkered with. After all, I end up paying as if I call myself a middle class taxpayer, a large sum of money. And one question this time, which middle class is going to ask: what is happening with my money? Also, if that is going to go to sops like this, if they are not getting any quota, nothing, there will be anger, more anger. Sops are good for farmers. Well, in the long term, what is going to do? This is going to do to agriculture. It's debatable. But as a middle class taxpayer, I would like to ask what is happening to my money as well. That's one question I would like to know from the government also. Maybe there are answers this time.
Apart from income tax rates, the other answer that has also been looking for is a higher exemption limit on home loans, because that is very important. That can also help a lot of people, get more cash from their salary.
Well, absolutely. The theme. The last few budgets have been roti, kapda or makan, and here we can actually bank upon lots of schemes announced by the government, though many of them have not reached the ground. But yes, home being an important part of the dream, middle class dream. Second, real estate is in shambles, very bad. If you talk about the NCR area, the Mumbai area, the builders have been brought to the book. The RERA has happened. Well, we know that. But because of all that, the market has come down. Though in a way it's good because the prices have remained stable. But financially, there are no big subsidies, no big encouragement. So these encouragements could be announced as well, Krishna.
All right. So that's one end of the spectrum. As far as the consumer goes, the urban consumer, the salaried class of the country. Right, let's now, also we have some more people joining us, some experts who can help us understand this budget threadbare. We will be getting you that. But before that, I'm going to go to a quick question to Kartikeya. Kartikeya, apart from income tax and etc., that's the urban consumer. As far as the rural consumer is concerned, the rural economy has not been performing the way it needs to be, apart from the fact that there is the farm distress, the distress of the farmers. And the central government, I think by now, clearly knows that they cannot do a loan waiver like the state governments, because state governments have done close to 1.7 lakh crore rupees in the last, since April. What do you think that will happen on that front?
See, if you look at the announcements of all the state governments, the opposition and Narendra Modi-led government at centre, the announcements are populist in nature. What is happening is, if you just look at the morphology of the announcement, one is trying to outdo the other. So the first announcement was of Rahul Gandhi saying during Chhattisgarh elections that he will give a higher rate of MSP. Imagine a prime ministerial candidate from the opposition announcing MSP, future MSP rates of a state, not even the states, of a state. What happened? Chhattisgarh was swept by the Congress party. It worked like anything. Secondly, immediately after announcing the formation of the government, Congress went for loan waivers. What was the response? Not critical evaluation. Gujarat, Jharkhand, they also announced loan waivers. Now, before an important meeting of the cabinet, Rahul Gandhi has been talking about minimum income guarantee. The economists of the government are talking about basic universal income. So the whole focus has been very populist. I am very surprised if there is some fiscal prudence which will be exercised in this interim budget. This is an election year, and this will be a populist budget given a chance, because many a times the opposition does not allow. Even Chandrasekhar, when he was in power, Yashwant Sinha was the finance minister, Rajiv Gandhi did not allow him to present the full budget. The full budget was subsequently presented by Dr. Manmohan Singh in 1991-92.
Right, very important. Stay with us. Let's now take this across to Jasper Reed. Jasper, so much discussion around it and etc. etc. You know, there is lots of historical context as well when it comes to this interim budget that gets presented in India just before the elections. The world around will be looking at the fiscal discipline of India. And India's fiscal discipline has been consistently slipping. And it is set to most say that 3.5% is the likely fiscal deficit target that will be announced in this budget. And that's not good news for India. That will not enthuse investors or financial institutions across the world to invest in India.
So here's the thing, Krishna. Fiscal prudence is part of an overall package of economic competence, right? It's one measure. To your point, the government couldn't say at the moment that it's delivered on fiscal prudence, right? And notwithstanding Sumit's point about having a certain amount of leeway, the piggy bank at the moment does not have much in it. So to Kartikeya's point, if it's a populist political budget, they're going to put more strain on the fiscal situation. The bigger picture, of course, is that on various measures of economic competence, the jury's out. So 2 RBI governors have gone on their watch. Once is careless, twice is worrying. Head of the CBI's gone. Head of the Statistical Commission's gone. You know, key advisors have gone. So I think if you're representing the international community, and we're international investors, you look at this with a certain amount of mounting scepticism. And I say, fiscal prudence is one measure, but it's part of an overall package. And I'm not sure, so if you take people like Margaret Thatcher in the 80s in the UK, she had an Iron Lady reputation for strong economic management. I don't think the BJP have delivered on that.
Well, at least that's what they promised to deliver, if not anything else. That's the big question, whether the BJP government in India can deliver on the promise of fiscal prudence.